Right, in this video I'm going to show you how to do a good masking up so you can get nice, crisp, sharp lines when you're spraying. Now this is the Optare Delta and I'm making it into a Trent Barton's Park and Ride livery. Now if I just bring the camera up, that's the one I'm going to do. So I always have a reference photo on the computer when I'm working, so I know exactly where to mask up so we can get a good representation. But sometimes not all the models that you buy are, the detail wise, aren't as close to the real thing. With the size, sometimes the beading might be in the wrong place. Right, so we've got our model, we've got our masking tape, and this is what can only be called like a plastic stylus. It's got like a point on the end. You can get round styluses off Amazon for about, I think, £2.21 or something like that. And this has really helped a lot for when I want to get nice sharp edges, and I'll show you how to use that. But first, we know that the blue comes down to just that line there on the wheel arch. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mask that off. Now if you hold the masking tape like that in a straight line, taut both ends, you can get a really good straight line. So we just follow that bead in there. Once you're happy with it, just run your finger along it to make it secure, and then just trim the end like that. So now we've got that on here, what I use my stylus tool for is when you've got beading lines like this, if you just run the stylus in it, that stops the paint bleeding under them bits there, like so. So you get a nice, good, crisp line. I'll say this tool's ideal for this, like so. Let's say that stops it bleeding over, and just run your finger over the top there, and now we bring this round following that line, like so. It's good when you've got beading lines to follow, it makes the job a lot easier. And then bring that one over like so, and then fold this under, like that. And again, we'll just go over these lines just to make sure they're nice and flattened down like so. The line there. Now we do the other side. So again, get your masking tape, hold it between your thumb and finger onto the beading line where it's supposed to go, like so. Keep it taut and you'll get a nice straight line. Then just run your finger along the line like so. And then we'll cut that there. So we'll bend that over onto that line there. Just run your thumb along it to make sure it's nice and secure. And then you can just line it up a bit like that and bring it round. Sometimes when you've got corners like this, sometimes it won't actually meet the beading, so I'll show you how to sort that bit out. So run the thumb across it, and again we'll get our little stylus tool and just run it in the panel lines like so. So that stops the paint from seeping under the masking tape into these lines, because normally you'll get like the paint will run down there, and that's one thing you don't want. Right, so now we just get a little bit of masking tape. What we'll do, again, finger and thumb onto the line like so. And your thumb across it, get rid of these little bumps. We'll bring that round to there, making sure you follow that line, like so. And the same on that one there. In fact, that one, if you're not happy with it, like I'm not happy with that, then just trim it. But make sure to fold that edge in, like so. And just run your thumb across there. And with your stylus tool, you can just run it along there just to make sure that the masking tape is flush to the edge, like so. And then we'll just make sure that all these beading lines, these panel lines and beading lines are all, masking tape is nicely sunk into them, like so. And same on this side, like that. Right, now we know that that is perfect. So the next step now is to go into the workshop and put the first light coat of blue on. Now, most people just want to whack a load of paint on to get the job done. But what I find is if you do I use airbrush, ready mixed airbrush paints from hiroboy.com. If you use spray paints, card discount spray paints, then what I do is just give it a very, very fine spray all over the model. Just a light, fine spray. And I find that just the light, fine spray seals the edge of that masking tape. So that way you won't get any paint going underneath it. Because if you lob a lot of spray paint on, then it's going to find and seep under the masking tape. No matter how good you are, paint will always find a way in. So that's why you have to make sure that you press the edge down, and with a stylus tool make sure you get into all these little panel lines so that paint can't seep in. But the other added protection is if you put a very thin light spray of paint over the model and over the edge of the masking tape and leave it to dry for about an hour, half an hour, 2 hours, whichever you want, because paint dries from the bottom upwards. That way it seals the edge of the masking tape. So once you've got your fine coat on, then you can start adding the next layers of paint on, and that way it won't seep under the masking tape. That's how I do it, and that's how I've found how to get a nice crisp line of the masking tape. So a very thin light spray, just like a dusting of spray paint over the whole model, and that seals the edge of the masking tape. And then you can start building your paint up, and you'll know that you're not going to get any seepage under the masking tape. If you do get seepage, then you haven't done it properly. So, but say your stylus tool is good for things like this. Just run it along, make sure it's where it should be. You know, it's all nicely. It is a faff, but it's well worth it if you want to get nice, crisp, straight lines on your paint. Right, so now I'm happy with that. I can take it into the spray booth and we'll apply the thin coat, and I'll show you how to do that to protect dribbles and things like that from going under the masking tape. While we're doing masking, I thought I'd show you this little tip. Now, on this model, as you can see, once it focuses in, there you go, there's a little lip there, and that's where the roof line comes down round the window and then back up again. Now, this will be burgundy on this model because I've masked it all off to do the cream, and then the other parts will be red, which I've already done, and then the burgundy maroon colour Crimson Lake for the roof. So what I've found is these pens, liquid masking pens, and these come from Tyrrell's Models. It's in our newsletter and everything. And what you do is just gently dab within that line that you don't want the paint to go on. So that's how we do it, like that. And we'll do it the other side. Just dab it within that area that you don't want the paint to go on. Now, as you can see, that's left like a rubber sealant over that part there that we don't want the paint to go on. So I've done that on both sides. So when it comes to painting now, this part will not get covered in paint. So what we'll do, I'll spray this up and then I'll be able to show you how it works. Right, now this, as soon as we're on about masking, let's see if this masking fluid did the trick. There you go, it did. So now I've got the part there, which is going to be Crimson Lake. I'll just take this other side off so I don't forget. Another one. So there you go. So we put the masking fluid in there and now we know we can paint that, so it's easy to mask off. That's another tip for you. So it's from Terrell's, and say it's in our newsletter, and you've got these pens, liquid masking fluids. You've got the thicker nib and you've got the thinner nib. So these are perfect for when you get little jobs like this where it's a bit awkward to mask off. But no, it's done a really good job. It's perfect. So now all I've got to do is mask straight across there now and then spray it. Right, here we are in the workshop. So now what we're going to do is, as I explained before, because this might get a bit noisy, we're going to just give a light sand, just a light dusting of blue paint. And I'm using Grecian Blue RAL 510. This is ready mixed from Hiro Boy. And what I'm going to do is use my little dipper. Just a little bit of paint. You don't need a great deal. Basically just, really you can see in there, just a very fine bit at the bottom. All right, we'll turn, it might get a bit noisy now, but here we go for a light dusting. Right, and that's all we do, just a light dusting like that, and that will seal the top of the masking tape. So now we'll leave that for about half an hour to an hour to dry, and then we'll come back and we'll give it another coat. But that's basically what you do to seal the masking tape. Right, well, we've let that dry again, so now we shall give it another coat. another dropper of blue paint. So always start spraying before the model and off when you pass the model. So before the model and off, before and off. That way you don't get, what do they call it? You don't get a big blob of paint at the beginning. So it's like thickness and then going thin. So you don't get a full consistency in one place. So you get the right amount of paint all the time. So it's not thicker in one place than the other. That's why you start before the model and then after the model. And it all comes with practice. More paint. So you don't need a lot, it goes a long way. That's why I prefer airbrushing, because with a spray can that you get from the car discount shop, you're wasting a lot of paint. And spray cans are designed for big cars, not small models like this. I can even turn, just by adjusting the end, I can turn the spray down so I get an even finer spray. Equal amounts of spray paint all the time. I know I've gone on a long time on this one. But once your masking tape's sealed, and once you've done 2 fine coats, then you can go in for the other coats. I'm going to use all the paint up out the cut, so we don't waste any. And there you go. That's how to airbrush a model bus. So what we'll do, we'll let that dry off, harden off for 24 hours to make sure it's fully dry. And then I'll show you how to remove the masking tape. And then we'll put on the next colour, which will be white. Right, now we're back inside again. And it's at 24 hours to dry. So now I'm going to show you how to take masking tape off. Now this is where most people come unstuck, because they just pull it off and that's where the damage can happen. So I'm going to show you how to gently take off the masking tape so you don't fetch any paint off. Because if you haven't cleaned your model properly, this is where it will find it. So basically you get your masking tape and you pull it back on itself. So keep it as low as you can to the bodywork and gently just keep peeling it back. But make sure you pull it back on itself. So it's like that. So when you pull it gently back on itself. Like that. That way, you won't fetch any paint off if you haven't cleaned it properly. But if you have cleaned it properly, then you'll be fine. But don't just rip it off. It takes as long as it takes. That way, you know you're going to get a really good job. So that's all. We just keep doing like that. Just pulling it back on itself. Like that. Because if you pull it while it's up like that, you're putting more pressure on the masking tape and on the paint. Where this way, keeping it low is a lot better. And as I said, it won't fetch the paint off. There's nothing worse than ripping the masking tape off and then you've got bits of paint missing and you've got to go over it again. So slow and steady is the name of this game. So nearly to the end of this. I mean, for me, this is satisfying. I enjoy doing this part. But say, just take your time. There's no rush. So just keep peeling it back on itself like that. Following it all the way round. Like that. And as you can see, when we did the masking tape and we pressed the tool into the beading lines, the panel lines, we've got no bleed whatsoever. And because you pressed it down properly and you took the time and effort to mask it off properly and put your tool, your stylus into the panel lines, there's no bleed from the paint. So we've got a nice, crisp, sharp line. So I'll continue taking this masking tape off, and then the next step will be to remask it for the next colour. Right, now we're on to the next stage of doing the next piece of masking. Now, if you're a bit apprehensive about putting masking tape over your new paint, but I mean you shouldn't be, because if you've cleaned it nice and thoroughly, then you'll be all right. But just so you don't feel too panicky about doing it, if we get some masking tape like this, flip into 2 bits, and then get some paper, cut some paper out, and just rest it above the line like so, and then just gently put your masking tape down to secure it in place like that. And the same there, right on the edge, like so. And then, using your fingers like you did last time, just line the masking tape up on the edge of that line like so. Like that. And then just bring that round to the back like that. And the same to the front. So it's nicely all lined up with your line. Now you can see that bit there. So all you've got to do, just get some more tape. Just line it up with the edge like so. So always checking all the time like so. Pull that round so it's on the line, like that. And that's another way of masking up if you're a bit apprehensive about putting masking tape on your nice fresh paint that you've done. So, but as I've said, if you clean it thoroughly, give it a nice good scrub. You can get some Key and Clean from HyroBoy.com, which comes with like a scouring pad, but you can buy kitchen pads from Tesco's for about £1, and then just really go to town and really give the model a good clean before you prep it for painting, and you'll be fine. But say this is another way of masking up so you don't get paint overspray and things like that. And once again, we'll go round with a little tool that I've got and just do it in the beading lines like so, like that. And that way that'll stop the next coat of paint from bleeding onto your nice coloured paint that you've already applied. And the same rule applies again when you're spraying. It's just a very thin coat, like a dusting. And that way that'll seal that line of masking tape. And that way you won't get any paint going onto your blue or whatever colour you've painted. So that's how you mask up the model. So I'll go ahead, I'll get this sprayed, and then we'll come back to it later.